What is up, everybody? It is Tanner with Built Not Bought, and today I'm going to start a big project, and it's going to be so exciting and difficult. It's going to be my first ever ellipse/oval table, and the client wants it in all white oak. It's 95 degrees out today. It's probably closer to 100 in my shop. So I'm going to skip videoing all of the jointing and milling process. But if you'd like me to make a video on just specifically jointing lumber that you buy either rough cut or surfaced on 3 sides from the lumber yard, that's what I'm about to do now. I'll give you a look at what the material looks like for the project. So here it is. It's going to be a 9-foot table, and it's going to be 3 feet wide at the center, and then of course it's an ellipse, so it will kind of round out on the edges here. I've got 4 beautiful pieces of white oak. All I need to do is get these edges jointed so that everything fits nice and snug, and I will come back to you when we get to that point. So I got all my boards jointed and I'm really happy with them. You'll see here where my domino lines are. I made sure to lay out my oval just very, very roughly. You're not gonna really see this very well on camera, but you can kind of see where I rough drew out that ellipse or oval shape. And that's because I didn't want to make a cut like right here, or more so at this seam here, and have a domino showing on the edge. I've made that mistake before. So I quickly drew that oval around, and then I put all my lines so that they'd be in a safe, my dominoes would be in a safe place and not visible once we cut out that actual oval. So I'm ready to put the dominoes in, and then I'm gonna glue this thing up. And here it is in the clamps. You can see that piece of MDF on the back side there. I just use that to try and keep my glue up as level as possible. I alternate clamps from the top to the bottom. The parallel clamps work really nice because you can kind of put them on either the top or the bottom and they apply really even pressure. But I've got a whole bunch of Bessey clamps on here holding this together. And tomorrow I will pop it out of the glue ups or the clamps and get ready to cut out that oval. All right, so here's my template on top of the glue up for the oval table. I've been thinking about this a lot lately on the best way to go about cutting out this ellipse. And I'm going to be using a flush trim bit, obviously, on this template. But as far as getting the rough cut down, this is just way too large to run through a bandsaw. And what I think I'm going to end up doing ultimately is making straight cuts with my circular saw or my track saw just to get some of this bulk material off. And then I'm going to try a new blade on a jigsaw and try and get it fairly close here. The reason for cutting off all this extra material here is I don't want to use the jigsaw and start cutting and get to a point where the weight of these big edges is kind of flexing or pulling on some of these more narrow spots, and for it to break and then have some damage to the actual oval side of the table. I obviously don't care about what happens to these, but I think making these relief cuts, so to speak, is going to prevent anything from kind of all the weight of that wood kind of tearing out or breaking where I don't want it to. What I'm going to do is I've got one side of this clamped, and I'm going to put double-sided tape on this side, and I'm going to butt it up tight here and then drop it down and seal it, and then do the reverse, put the clamps on this side and tape this side down so I get this seam nice and flush. So this might give you a better idea of my game plan here. I went ahead and took the templates off and I just traced this line around the outside, and this line is about 1/4 inch outside of where it actually needs to be. And what I'm going to do is just take my track saw and make 4 cuts to get rid of these corners, and then maybe do a little bit of fine tuning where I didn't quite get to, like right under this track saw here, and then right on the edge over here. All right, so I went ahead and just decided to keep on rolling with my track saw. I knew the jigsaw was going to be a pain in the butt getting through 2 inches of white oak. So what I just kept on doing is just making straight cuts and working my way around to that black line as best as I could. And this is what I'm left with. It's a really rough oval, but it's kind of cool to see, you know, the general idea of what it's going to look like. And then I'm going to tape those templates on there and use that flush trim bit to get these edges nice and perfect here. So I just have some of this 3M double-sided tape. I just kind of put it around the edges where the most pressure is going to be, and then a couple across the middle. I'm going to peel off the top layer of this and then just flip it over here and then do the same on the other side. All right, guys, I'm going to attempt to cut out the final oval shape. I have it rough cut right now. I just ordered in this 2-inch flush trim bit, and I'd be lying if I said that this is going to go easy. I'm kind of worried, honestly, because it's 2 inches thick of white oak, which is a super dense wood, and there is kind of a lot to trim off. There's some spots that are pushing 1/4 of an inch that I need to remove. So my goal with this is just to take my sweet time with it, take really shallow passes, and if I have to take multiple loops around to get that final cut, I'm okay with that. The biggest issue that I'm afraid of is tear out, and I'm trying to follow the direction of the grain as best I can, but when you go around these curves, it's really difficult because you got the grain going straight, then it kind of curves off, and the way the blade of this flush trim bit spins, it kind of wants to rip some of that grain up in certain directions. So I'm going to be really careful with that. And I'm going to do a little bit of step routing, it's called, where you go along and you just make little notches in it as you go, and then you come back and clean it up. And those notches kind of prevent any massive tear out. So that's the plan right now. I'm going to guess it's going to take quite a while, so I don't think I'm going to film the whole process. But yeah, wish me luck. I was really impressed at how clean of a cut I was getting with this Freud bit. I thought it was going to be a lot more difficult to get this all done. Just going a little bit slower, and this Festool router having a ton of power helps power through all 2 inches of this white oak. Just finished cutting this all out. Sorry for the wind. And I couldn't be happier with how clean of a cut this is all the way around. There was only one spot that had a little bit of tear out, but it was so minor. It's on the other end there, but basically it was like an internal tear out, like on the edge here. It wasn't like on the corner, so it'll be easy to sand that out and finish it. I used a Freud bit, the 2-inch flush cut bit. It's not a helical head or spiral head. It's just a straight blade bit, and I think a combination of a brand new bit and that Festool router having so much power to get through that 2 inches of white oak made that actually go super easy. One pass, I just kind of took my time, walked all the way around, and really happy with that. Super clean cut. So I'm working on the leg system here for the oval table, and this is going to be the bottom of the base that touches the ground. And I just have a straight piece here, and then branching off of that, I cut these at 45s, and then this is at a 10-degree bevel. And I also cut the actual legs at a 10-degree bevel. And they're just going to sit in here like that, so it has a slight taper. So I'm going to mark these all out, domino, and glue this together. Stop. That did not. Hey guys, I finished the oval dining table last night. Kind of got to be a late night, but I got the Rubio on it. I used I used natural for the first time. I usually use pure. Went ahead and tried natural. That's what the client wanted, and the client was absolutely right in this case. It looks wonderful. But before I deliver this table, I want to tell you about the underside of it because I didn't get any of that on camera as I was doing it. Here's a quick shot of how it's looking right now, and the underside. I've got a feeling I'm gonna get a lot of questions about these legs because they are awesome. And what I did to attach them to the actual table, I get this question almost more than anything, is how do you attach your table base to the top? And what I did here is something I've never done, and I actually took a router and recessed into the top of this. And then on top of the leg, I took a piece of 3/4 inch solid oak and I put dominoes in on both sides. So there's 2 dominoes coming up out of the leg into this little 3/4 inch block. And then I bolted that in with threaded inserts. But how beautiful did this turn out? And here's the table in its new home. What an absolutely beautiful home that's been completely renovated. I want to say a huge thank you to the Courtney family for giving me such an awesome opportunity building this oval table. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe for more content like this. See you on the next build.